that case, I'm going to select a random person. Huzzah. And once again, we are not able to open images on the computer like real people, so we will be using Photoshop again, which is always super annoying. Cool. I like it. All right, cool. So this is a cute little object. Cool. Oh, I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Josh.
Josh, thank you. Because I suck at names. Haha, cool. Thanks. All right, so that is like super cute, totally recognizable. Did you have any like issues or questions when you were making this, or?
I guess just, do you think that's all right as far as texturing goes? Is there anything I should add to it?
I might go through. Is this a low poly asset?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you did a good job. It looks like. Did you go through and like bevel little edges of this?
Yeah.
Nice. Because I honestly didn't realize it was low poly until I looked at this, and I'm like, oh, okay. But yes, I mean, I think you did that like quite nicely. Handled the edges nicely. In terms of the texturing, I feel like maybe watch out for some of the direction of the wood grain in certain areas. Mostly like right down here. It's running the wrong way. So that's like always one of my, like anytime anyone is doing anything out of wood, one of the things I kind of look for by default and like will look really weird if it's not handled correctly, I guess, is like the direction of the wood grain. It's always like really noticeable if that's off. So that'll be the first thing I look at. I think the texture you've chosen itself is fine. It seems like there could maybe be, and to be fair, wood's not like super crazy shiny, but it seems like there could be maybe some kind of bump map or something in it, if there's not already. And then I like, where was it? There was like right in this, on this like blue triangle guy. I really like how you've sort of gone through and like worn the paint off of the wood. Like that looks really cool, and it just shows up really, really nicely in this one area here. So I think that's super cool. I almost kind of wish I saw like more stuff like that in here.
On all of them, it's just I moved it around so it's at different parts.
Right.
So I just like catch it up in all the measures.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily expect it to show up like everywhere, but I do really like that that's a thing that you did. It does look pretty cool. I think the maybe like weirdest thing or like the most off-putting thing about the texturing itself is like these black smudgy bits. Where they just, I almost can't tell if they're supposed to be, like I assume it's just sort of like a noise texture you put on for dirt or something like that? Is that?
I use like one of the brush types in Photoshop, so you
Okay.
build it up a bunch so it will only be on certain parts.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, something about, it might just be like the color of the dirt looks a little weird to me. I'm not entirely sure. It might just be the layout. But like, I mean, this one in particular almost looks like it wants to be like a specular highlight or something like that, but it's not. So I think I would just go through, if there's one thing I was going to sort of fiddle with this and this, I think it would be like the areas of dirt. I might go in and try to make them a little bit more targeted, or I think the other thing that looks a little strange about them is they're so soft, if that makes sense. So like, I'm looking at this and like this is like clearly a soft transition, which like kind of makes sense because you're like slowly wearing through a layer of paint. So I think this holds up, but I think part of the reason that this holds up is because you do see that like very defined wood texture underneath, if that makes sense. Whereas this just sort of looks like a blurry yellow noise texture. So I think if you want to leave this dirt in here, it might make sense to add some kind of like slightly more customized texture to the dirt itself. Amazing. So fun, completely unrelated story. My ringtone is Inigo Montoya screaming, "Hello! My name is Inigo Montoya!" And I told my dad this once, as we were going to like Holy Thursday Mass, and we were sitting there at communion while my mom was going up to Mass, and he tries to call my phone, and I look at him and I'm like, "It's silenced. Suck it." It was a strange thing, but anyway, sorry. It just such a weird story. But yeah, so I mean, that was kind of like a lot of sort of rambly-ish feedback, but does that kind of make sense?
Making it more defined?
I think either making it more defined or maybe just like not so much rust. So I think, let me see actually if I can find any pictures of like wooden toys. Where am I going? Hiya. New tabs everywhere. I don't know. I'm probably just gonna end up with like blocks, but actually, this is sort of okay. I was hoping for some like worn pictures of like worn down blocks or something like that, which apparently I am not going to find today. But I was thinking it might make sense to do something. Well, that's a digital painting. Not helpful. All right. Apparently, I'm just not gonna be able to find what I'm looking for. This actually might be kind of close-ish. I think either making it more defined or maybe picking a few areas and like figuring out how and why it got dirty and using that to inform the texture, if that makes sense. So I'm thinking, you know, if this was outside at some point and it got dropped in mud, that mud would probably cling, like if this had any little scratches or like rough areas in the block, the mud probably would get stuck and like discolor that area. Versus, you know, someone going in with like a Sharpie and leaving marks on it, like that's gonna be a totally different effect. It's also gonna be a different effect like if someone took this and like dragged it across concrete. So I think, again, just kind of maybe deciding, how each individual like dirt mark got put on would help you recreate a more specific and more realistic looking mark, if that makes sense. And I think the other thing that would actually benefit from this, or like that would look really neat, is doing something with maybe adding some like scratches in the paint. Just because, again, I mean, you have this like, I really like this wear here. That looks cool. I'm gonna keep saying that, but if you have this like chipped off paint, I might expect to see some scratches in other areas of the paint. Not like scratches all the way through to the wood necessarily, but just like a little bit of scratch and detail just in the paint itself. But yeah, so I mean, I think most of my comments would honestly just be more of this, because this looks awesome. Like if you can get other scratches that's like on the same level of detail and like look of this, it would be cool. And then also just like watch the wood, like here the wood grain is running diagonally. So just watch out for that, and then maybe go back in and do a little bit more targeted stuff on the textures. But yeah, I mean, I think like the model itself looks super cool. And strictly speaking, the assignment for this week was only to do to only do the actual model. So the fact that you do have this texture is like, hey, you now have more time to go back and refine that. Yeah, so did you have any other like questions, concerns, troubles, etc.? Cool. I always feel the need to go through and be like, okay, is there a pattern in these blocks? Like, how are these arranged? All right, cool. So anyone else want to look at their project? All right. We'll do, after I close all of these Photoshop tabs. All right, last call. All right, random selection it is. Y'all. Cool. Oh wait. I looked at the reference picture and I'm like, holy crap, that's awesome. Ooh. Yeah, this is a cool model. And then totally, so I'm looking at the reference pic. It seems like the shape-wise, you did a pretty good job capturing that. If this is abalone, have fun texturing that. That is going to be a nightmare and a half. But yeah, so I like, whoop, not what I wanted to do. Yeah, but I think overall, like, this turned out pretty cool. I like the sort of creative detail it looks like was taken with the, like, adding a little bit more dimension and stuff into this area. So there's like a little bit more like chiseling and beveling and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I think, so first of all, looking at this it's cool looking. Also watch out, like, I can, obviously at this point I can see off the edge of your render, so like, things to watch out for in the future, but yeah, I think there's like a few areas that look a little weird. Like there's a seam here that if it's intentional, fine. If it's intentional, I'll shut up. But if it's not intentional, maybe like seam that back together because it looks a little bit weird. It's also not necessarily a place I would expect to see a seam. But, and then there's also like one right in here. So I'm thinking maybe it was like a weird thing of like, depending on how you made this and like mirrored stuff over. If you ended up mirroring it for symmetry, like that could cause that kind of thing sometimes. But yeah, I mean, shape-wise, I think this looks pretty good, and as far as I can tell from like the curvature of this and how things are moving, it also looks like you have the topology laid out in a reasonable way. I don't know why I really like the lighting on this one. I think it's interesting. But yeah, so I mean, I think honestly the biggest comment I would have for this one is like, maybe take a little bit more care with the renders, because you have what looks like a really cool looking model, and it doesn't seem, just like off the top of my head, to like have, you know, a lot of weird mesh issues or anything like that in it. So it'd be really nice to see renders that maybe sort of showed off the model a little bit more, or at least had backgrounds. Excuse me. Yeah, so I mean, does anyone else have any like thoughts or comments on the shield, questions, etc.? I like the lighting on this one a lot. I think the way the light sort of rakes across the surface is cool. And it makes a very, I don't know how to describe it, but like a very sort of game effect. Gamey light? I don't know. I don't know what the heck I'm trying to say right now, but like it has a certain style to it that feels neat. But yeah. So either way, I think the shield looks pretty darn cool. Yeah. Alright. Anyone else have any stuff that they want to look at for their models? Cool. Tyrone? Cool. I am super blind. I'm just like, amazing. All right, so did you have any specific questions, or like just wanted feedback on stuff? Okay. Cool. Let me grab this. All right. So, okay. Amazing. I love this so much. All right. Something very satisfying about this. I'll look at the glass in a second, but there's something I find very satisfying about the fact that this is like a slightly meat-colored beaver, just like blurred out. Like it's super creepy looking in a way that, like, is basically just because you can't see into the beaver or like into the little globe. But yeah, so let me throw your scene in Maya really quick. It looks like maybe just the roughness on the glass got turned up somewhere, or it's either that, or it's like maybe a weird issue with sampling where the sampling is this the one I'm looking for? Okay. Where the sampling might just be like funky to a point where it looks frosted. Alright, so where am I going? Alright, so it looks like the roughness is set up a little bit high. So you wanted it to be less rough, yeah? That was the thing, I take it? Come on, give me a render. Don't do this to me. Wait, are there, oh, there's no lights in here. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Alright, sky dim light. I'm just gonna throw I found the world's ugliest HDRI, like yesterday. It's so bad. I'm gonna use it. It turns everything this horrific purple color. It's awful. Heyo. Alright, cool. So I would assume that in this case, what are my render samples set to? Because, okay, cool. Alright, so I'm just gonna go through on your glass and see what happens if I set the roughness down to 0. This is such a bad HDRI. Wow. But, it's like so distracting. But is I assume, kind of more the effect that you were looking for? Okay. So yeah, so I mean, your roughness was just set up a little bit high. So bringing that down, maybe don't go like hardcore like 0, but just give it like, you know, a tiny bit of roughness. Not so much that it clouds it over, but enough that it'll actually make it see-through. And then because you've gone through sort of on the sides here and modeled the inside and outside of this, it is going to give you that nice sort of effect on the inside here. But yeah, I love this beaver guy. He's so creepy in the best way. This is so good. I feel like, just like for the beaver guy, I feel like it might be good to go back and maybe tweak like a few, like his wrists look a little broken. I realize this is like probably, this is like obviously a very organic model, which isn't necessarily, like hasn't necessarily been gone over how to do something like that super explicitly, but yeah, I might just go through, like, seems like there's a few areas that are like, could just get tweaked a little bit. Mostly the wrists, I think at this point would be a good place to start. I can also, if you guys ever are interested in topology for like a specific, I don't know, like body part or whatever, like hands or feet or something like that, the internet has a lot of either models you can download, models that show topology, or just let me know and I might have random hand models floating around that I can like send you to reference. But yeah, I don't know. I still like the beaver guy. He's like, I'm not gonna lie, like if I found this globe somewhere, I absolutely know people that I would buy this for. But yeah. So did you have any other like questions or issues with this, or just the glass? Cool. The only other thought that I have just right now is it looks like so this is like a weird kind of small thing, but it looks like there might be some extra loops on this bottom part that are causing it to clip through the sides of this, but also or like have gaps between this and the base, which might, so that might be something to look into, just sort of like rejigger this a little bit so it actually fits in the bottom, and I think actually just getting rid of some of these loops here would pretty much do that. This is not, I don't know, but yeah, so might just look into making sure that that's like an actual seal that looks like it would hold water, especially since it is like your main object in your scene and it has clear on it, so that's something that you might actually see in your renders. But yeah, I'm digging on the little beaver dude. All right, cool. Anybody else questions or anything about their projects? God, you guys are all super talkative today. Just for the record, for the final, I will actually like make people comment on things. And I might actually just like write everyone's name down on a piece of paper and just sort of pull names at random. Anywho, all right, so I might just do like one or two more just sort of random projects and then move on to other things. Tra-la-la. But yeah, so like I said earlier, it's probably going to be like a fairly short lecture today. There's like 2.5 things that I want to go over, and then I'm just mostly going to do open lab in case people need help with stuff. Ooh, nice. I like the little eye patch. That's quite cute. But yeah, so alright, so do you have any like questions or issues making this, or?
I definitely had issues with like one of my bump maps wouldn't export, so I had to redo it.
Jeez.
Because I just used like a noise texture.
Yeah.
And it, for some reason, could not convert it, so I had to remake it again in like Photoshop. That was really the only issue I had.
That's weird. Wait, like you made like a Maya noise and it wouldn't work?
Yeah, like it just wouldn't show up.
That's.
And it said that it couldn't export it either, so I just made my own, and it seems to work about the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually gonna say, as far as the fur goes, it looks like you handled that pretty well in terms of, like, fur is always a god-awful annoying thing to texture.
Yeah.
And I think the decision to make a very fine, like, somewhat deep bump map was a good one. I think the probably weirdest thing I see with fur is, like, very large, like a long fur pattern with a very aggressive bump map. It tends to look a little strange, but I think this reads pretty well as far as bump map fur. I still really like this little eyeball. Or like the little like stitch eye. That's super cute. Yeah, I mean I think like overall like, well, okay. I keep forgetting that I like haven't actually so sorry, it seems like there was confusion about like if you guys had to texture stuff this week, so like sorry if you know I didn't make it clear that textures were not due today. But yeah, so I mean since you have the texture, like model looks fine, definitely holds up. I think I go back in and look at some of the areas like right here on the mostly just in this one render, but you see a lot of the like little like ridgy bits in the bow tie thing, so I might go and look into that and just like smooth them out slightly. Like I like how you have this bump in here. This just feels maybe, yeah, like I think when it's low poly, it's like a little much because it's pointier than it maybe feels like it should be. But yeah, and then I would also go through, since you have extra time to texture, I might go through and also work on adding some like seams or something into this little bear. So like maybe around the stomach or like definitely around this area there would be some kind of like seams or stitching. So I'll go through and add that kind of stuff. It'll add a lot of polish to. I was for some reason about to call him Dear Sir Teddy, and I'm like, why? And then I said it anyway. But yes, I mean like that would add a lot of polish to the bear. But yeah, I mean I think like, overall this looks pretty nice. I like it. I don't know what it is. Feels like this is one of those like weird fluke lighting things where.
It seems like it's like floating there.
Yeah, like and I can see there's a shadow here, and I'm like it totally looks like he's floating. Did you render this in like Unity or Maya or?
Maya with Arnold.
Gotcha.
Unity is not. Especially my models and the textures.
Okay.
I'm fighting with that one, so I just made it.
Okay. For whatever it's worth, I have at least more experience fiddling with textures in Unity than I do with lighting and rendering. So if you have your stuff at the end of class, I can try to take a look at that and see if I happen to know a weird thing that's like causing your issues. But yeah, but I was gonna say, so like clearly you have shadows here. It's like one of those fluke lighting things where it like looks like it's floating, but it isn't. So if you ever have this issue in the future, one thing you could do is add in an ambient occlusion pass to the lighting. Nuts. But I can show you guys how to do that later. Alternately, if you have me for CGI 1, which I'm like 98% sure that you did, we went over that for like how to composite stuff on. But you can basically like add that in Photoshop as a multiply layer, and it'll give you that like fine shadow that you see between everything else. Again, for this I'm not terribly concerned, just like random thought thing that I noticed. But yeah, cool. All right. Anyone else want to look at their stuff, or shall we? Okay. Where am I going? All right, and you are SRT?
No,
SNS. Dang it. Okay. All right. So, any particular questions, or oh wait, was this? Oh yeah. Okay. Duh. Sorry. Actually, I legitimately got confused because I was like, oh my god, like it's not textured. Is this the wrong? And I'm like, I didn't ask for textures. Like, get it together. All right. So yeah. Any questions or comments, or just feedback?
Not really on like how it turned out there. I mean, there was a few weird things for the UV.
Yeah. Okay, so I will bust open the Maya file. I do like the key. I remember looking at this, and I like the. Wow, which one am I looking at?
The Maya Piano UV.
Perfect. But yeah, I mean, I like the detail that you put into the keys. That was nice. All right, so so which UVs in particular, or just?
Well, I mean, I wanted you to just give me your general idea on how the UVs turned out, and then
Okay.
there was a couple, I think, edges or something that I was trying to delete from, not the keys, but it was like one of the back segments. I don't know exactly what I called it.
Like this thing?
No, that's like, I think it. No, turn it around. Face the front. So you see how there's like a little shelving unit, like on the top? I think it's like, right below that.
This thing? Oh, this thing? Right, this thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. I think I looked at this. I actually have feedback up because you submitted this freakishly early.
Oh yeah, and I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So I modeled it, right?
Yep.
And then when I started UVing or something, it didn't originally look like that. And I wish I had more saves of this.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a save to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
So it just has this. The back looks really weird. I don't know how it turned out like that.
All right. Yeah. So there's definitely So there's a few weird things. This is like the one piece that I looked at. I remember when I was looking through stuff. So, my first comment that would pretty much eliminate all these issues is, since this is a game asset, you can delete the entire back of this since it's just in a keyboard. It'll save on some polys, and you also won't need to deal with these issues. That being said, if you do actually want to deal with the issues, this little dude here, it's like weird sort of perpetual line. No idea how it got there, but that is literally just an extra random face floating around. So if I just go into face selection mode, marquee select over this, and then unselect whatever I've selected on the main key, piano piece, I'll delete it and it'll get rid of that face.
I thought it was an edge.
Yeah, that's if you. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I was having the hardest time trying to.
Yeah. Usually, if there's a weird floating straight line that looks like an edge, it's usually a face. Because Maya actually won't, unless it might have done this to me like once, maybe. But Maya physically won't let you, like, it is not letting me delete that edge. So the only way to get, like, you can't just have a floating edge. It has to be like a floating polygon. So the only way to make that sort of floating edge is to basically shrink the entire thing down so that it, crap. I mean, leave that there, no. Shrink it down so it basically looks like an edge, but it's actually a face. It's a horrible, horrible thing that Maya does. But yeah, so that's what they were, just like weird floating faces. And then for this, I have absolutely no idea how.
I'm not sure what happened, but like as you can see, it looks like that big set of lines, like on the side of it, should be connected to the big set of lines on like the back of it.
Oh yeah.
And somehow they're completely like apart.
Yeah, they've been.
I don't know how that happened.
They've been shifted down with extreme aggression, and it's actually weird because I'm toggling between smooth and unsmooth, and I like can't exactly figure out where that's happening. It does kind of look like there might be like 3 sets of, or like some overlapping geometry. So like right now, all those vertices I selected are in that straight line. If I toggle between smooths and unsmooths, you can see like when I smooth that, they kind of spread out, which is telling me that there might be like a weird line of overlapping geometry somewhere in here. So what I'm going to do, and this is probably a horrible solution to this, but I'm going to try it, is like, you can see the flow of, like, this line from, like, here down to here. So I'm going to grab these edges and just see what happens if maybe if I start at the bottom, and merge these to center. And then I'm just going to kind of keep going up and doing that and basically combining those 3 loops into one, and that was a horrible decision, which I'm going to undo. But basically, I think that there's some overlapping geometry in here, but it's a little hard to tell. In this case, I do legitimately think the simplest and or most practical solution would literally just be to get rid of the entire back of this thing and add it back in, or not. So I'm just gonna, because I don't know where the faces are, I'm just marquee selecting over pretty much the entire back and then just getting rid of that and then just deleting them. And now when I smooth this, you can see it does smooth a little bit nicer. At this point, if I wanted to, I could go back in and like bridge these back together. But like I said, since this is a game mesh, it's not at all uncommon. Like, that's just the back of the piece. You could just leave that as an empty plane and you would never notice it unless you had a very broken camera that like somehow went into your keyboard. But yeah, so that one I'm actually not exactly sure how to fix. I would just delete it and like remake that geometry. It's probably like 80 bajillion times faster. I dig this thing. It seems like, so, and this is just like, if you need to be, I wouldn't really worry about it for this project, but if you guys ever need to be like really like hardcore sticklery about geometry for stuff, you could go through, because like there's a lot of edge loops in here that like, you need them for the curves of the edges, and like, they definitely do a nice job holding that curve, but you don't necessarily need them like on the flat face. So if you wanted to, again, if you ever just needed to be like really hardcore stickler about geometry, you could go through and just like, just combine edge loops once you're done with the shape, and it'll, dear God. You can go through and just like eliminate a bunch of geometry like that. Which again, can like actually, if you have a lot of assets like this, it can totally save a lot of computing power in the end, but for this, you're probably not going to worry about it. But yeah. No, I mean, I think like overall this looks really nice. I think like you did a good job capturing all the like wood detail and stuff in here. And it like just overall looks like a nice, well-rendered piano. Yeah, do you have any other like issues doing this, or anything else you want to look at? Cool. Yeah, and I think yeah, this was like the main piece of like weird, and you can see that even like once I deleted that background stuff, it looks like, don't quote me on this, but it might give you a nice looking unfold too, for that. But yeah, no, I mean, I think this is quite nice looking. It'd be cool to get some like sheet music in here, just like chilling there. I don't know.
Oh, actually, there's one more question I
No. Yes.
had. On the DVR, do you think it's fine that I put all the keys, like all the keys that are supposed to have like the same sort of texture overlapping?
Yeah. So I think it depends on a little bit how you plan to texture it. If you just needed color, or you're doing something procedural, something like this would be totally fine. If you wanted to make this like an old sort of grimy keyboard with maybe some different wear on the key, like maybe, you know, the middle of the keyboard, like around middle C, would have some more wear on the keys or something like that. If you did need that like additional custom texture mapping, you would need to shift the keys so that they aren't overlapping. But if you just wanted to like make them a specific color or add like a very generic sort of wear pattern to it, something like that, this is totally fine. But yeah, does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then just when you texture this, have fun making sure all the wood grain is going in the right direction. It's gonna be fun with this one. But no, I mean, I think this turned out super nice. I like all the molding and stuff that you did. Okay, cool. Anyone else want to look at their projects? All right. In that case,